The gates of Blackridge Academy stood like a challenge. Tall, wrought iron, polished to a shine that reflected the sun and every ounce of doubt in Elijah Grant's chest. He adjusted the strap on his backpack, the one with a frayed shoulder seam, and stepped inside. The students passing him wore shoes that cost more than his rent. Their laughter was light, casual, and laced with unspoken judgment. "Elijah Grant?" a voice called out. A woman with a clipboard and cat-eye glasses scanned him with a flicker of disapproval. "Yes, ma'am. Transfer student, full scholarship. You'll be in Cohort A, Advanced Stream." Her tone made it sound like someone had spilled milk in her coffee. Inside, Blackridge was a cathedral to old money, polished wood floors, oil paintings of founders and benefactors, marble staircases that seemed to sneer under his second-hand sneakers. He found his locker and tried not to stare at the golden plaques above the doors of the legacy lockers nearby. Names engraved in brass. Families who'd walked these halls for generations. "Elijah, right?" A warm voice. A girl with thick curls and a wide smile approached. "Yeah. I'm Amara. You're in AP Bio with me, I think. Ms. Klein's class." He nodded, grateful for the kindness. Then the hallway hush broke with a laugh, loud and theatrical. "You've got to be kidding me," said a boy in a Letterman jacket. Blonde, chiseled jaw, that smug private school aura. "What's public school doing here?" he asked, looking Elijah up and down. "This is Blackridge, not Craigslist." Laughter followed. Not just from him, but from the two boys behind him, shadows that flanked him like a throne. "Ignore him," Amara whispered. "Who is that?" Elijah asked. "Carter Langford," she said. "As in Langford Theater. His dad donated it. Of course, power, money, immunity." In AP Bio, Elijah sat near the front. His book was used, the corners dog-eared, the cover taped. But his notes were neat, his mind sharp. Ms. Klein started with a quiz to gauge student levels. Elijah finished first. Behind him, whispers. "I bet he guessed." "Probably cheated." "No way he's that smart." By lunch, the looks followed him like shadows. He sat under a tree away from the main courtyard. Amara found him with a tray in hand. "You okay?" "I've seen worse," he muttered. She nodded. "Langford's like that with anyone who threatens the food chain. You're smart, he doesn't like that." Elijah said nothing. He was used to the cold stares. He just hadn't expected them to sting this much. Later that day, he entered the science lab early and found Ms. Klein reviewing lab reports. "Elijah," she said, surprised, "your quiz was perfect." He shrugged. "I like science." "You understand science," she corrected. "Have you thought about applying for the Innovation Fellowship?" He blinked. "What's that?" "It's competitive, national, research, funding, mentorships. It changes lives." She handed him a brochure. From the doorway, Carter Langford watched silently. Then, to no one in particular, he said, "Interesting." So they're handing out awards now to charity cases. Ms. Klein didn't hear it, but Elijah did, and for the first time he smiled. Not with warmth, but calculation. The next week passed like walking through a minefield. Every step Elijah took was met with smirks, murmurs, or worse, accidental bumps in the hallway. At first, he ignored them. But Carter wasn't just a bully. He was strategic. He understood the power of humiliation in front of an audience. It started small, a misplaced tray in the cafeteria landing on Elijah's lap. A drink spilled inside his locker. A subtle shoulder check during group photos. The final straw came during chemistry lab. Ms. Klein was out that day, replaced by a substitute who barely knew their names. Elijah had been paired with a quiet girl named Sienna, while Carter worked with his usual entourage. The assignment was simple. Combine two compounds and observe the reaction. Elijah double-checked their setup. Precise, perfect. But when he turned around to grab the worksheet, he heard a clatter. The beaker was on the floor, shattered, and Carter was smiling. "Whoops, clumsy." The sub rushed over. "Elijah, what happened?" "I didn't. Looks like he dropped it," Carter cut in smoothly. "Again." "I didn't touch it." "Don't worry," Carter said. "I'm sure he'll do better next time. That is, if there is a next time." The substitute issued Elijah a warning and told him to clean the mess. Later, as he crouched by the sink, scrubbing broken glass, he felt something shift. Not just in the air, but inside him. Enough. Elijah wasn't just smart, he was methodical. He began to watch, listen, take notes, where Carter went after school, which teacher he charmed, which rules he bent when no one looked. That night, Elijah returned to the apartment he shared with his mother and younger sister. The peeling wallpaper, flickering hallway light, and scent of cheap detergent reminded him how far from Blackridge he truly was. "You okay?" his mom asked. "Yeah," he said, "just school stuff." "You sure this is the right place for you?" "I'm sure it's not," he answered. She blinked. "But that doesn't mean I'm leaving." She smiled faintly. "That's my boy." He opened the Innovation Fellowship brochure again. The deadline was 3 weeks away. He needed a lab partner, a project, and access to equipment he didn't have. But he did have one thing: time and a reason. The next morning, Miss Klein was back. She approached him before class. "I read your application draft, very impressive." Elijah lit up. "But you need a mentor to sponsor it formally. I'd love to help." Across the room, Carter was leaning against a desk, chatting with two girls. But when he saw Miss Klein talking to Elijah, the smile faded. Later, during lunch, Elijah found a small plastic bag inside his locker. Inside it? A used toothbrush, broken in half, and a folded note. "Heard your mom cleans floors. Thought this might help you feel at home." Elijah's hands clenched around the paper. That night he didn't cry. He wrote a list of names, dates, incidents, a timeline of every microaggression, every threat, every calculated move Carter had made. He wasn't building a case for pity, he was building a strategy. Elijah had never been popular. He was used to being invisible. But now, that invisibility became his greatest weapon. He spent his free periods in the library, but not just to study. He observed. Carter's kingdom was built on 3 pillars. Social dominance. He controlled the narrative. Teacher favoritism. He charmed adults with perfect manners. Legacy protection. His family's name opened doors and closed mouths. To beat him, Elijah didn't need brute force. He needed evidence. He dug through old-school newsletters, reading between the lines. A scholarship student who withdrew suddenly after a mysterious disciplinary issue. A freshman who quit the debate team after a misunderstanding. Patterns emerged. One name stood out: Maya Rodriguez, a top student who vanished mid-semester last year. He messaged her on an old student forum. To his surprise, she replied, "Carter Langford ruined my life. If you're planning something, be smart. He's protected. But if you get proof, real proof, I'll back you." That was all the encouragement Elijah needed. Meanwhile, Ms. Klein pulled Elijah aside again. "Your project idea, cellular regeneration through bioelectricity, ambitious, but promising." "I'll need a lab partner," Elijah said carefully. "What about Amara?" "She's good, but she's under Carter's radar. I don't want her getting dragged into this." Ms. Klein frowned. "Elijah, is something going on I should know about?" He hesitated. "Not yet, but soon." That afternoon he took a risk. He approached Ethan, Carter's quiet sidekick, the one who laughed, but never spoke first. "You're good at coding, right?" Elijah asked. Ethan blinked. "How do you know that?" "Everyone assumes you're just Carter's shadow." "I don't." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Why are you talking to me?" "I'm building something," Elijah said, "and I think you're tired of playing for the wrong team." He handed Ethan a flash drive. "You don't have to do anything, just look." That night, Ethan did look. Inside the drive were files, screenshots of Carter's bullying, anonymous messages from other victims, security footage timestamps, even emails between Carter and a certain coach, one that hinted at exam cheating. Elijah hadn't gone to the administration, not yet. He knew how that would end. He needed someone inside Carter's circle to crack the wall. Ethan sent a single-line reply. "Tell me what you need." With Ethan's help, Elijah mapped the school's internal server structure. They located security cam blind spots, download logs, even digital footprints Carter didn't know he'd left. They also discovered something bigger, a shared Dropbox folder between Carter and a teacher. The contents? Advanced test materials. Midterms that hadn't even been written yet. "He's been cheating?" Elijah asked. "For over a year," Ethan confirmed. "And no one noticed?" "Money hides a lot," Ethan replied grimly, "especially when your dad donates a new science wing." Back in class, Carter noticed the shift. Elijah wasn't avoiding eye contact anymore. He looked at Carter like he was studying him. "So," Carter said one day, tossing an eraser at Elijah's desk, "still playing scientist, huh?" "Every king thinks he's untouchable," Elijah said, calm, "until the walls come down." Carter paused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, yet." The week before the Innovation Fellowship submission was electric with tension. Carter strutted the halls as usual, but there was a flicker of unease beneath his confidence. Elijah had stopped reacting. That was new and unsettling. In the science lab, Ms. Klein announced a surprise. "The top 5 fellowship applicants will present live before a review panel. It counts for 50% of your score." Gasps spread across the room. Carter smirked. Elijah met Ms. Klein's eyes and nodded. He was ready. That night, Elijah and Ethan finalized the plan. "We upload the backup files the night before the presentations," Ethan said. "Everything gets time-stamped. No one can claim it's doctored." "And the teacher?" Elijah asked. "I'm working on a screen recording," Ethan said. "Should have it by Thursday." At school, Carter pulled Elijah aside. "You're getting real cocky for someone with a foot out the door." "Funny," Elijah replied. "That's exactly what I was going to say to you." Carter stepped closer. "You think you're some kind of hero? This place wasn't made for people like you." "Maybe not," Elijah said. "But maybe that's the problem." Carter laughed coldly. "You'll never win. You don't belong here." "No," Elijah replied, voice calm. "But neither do your lies." The day of the presentation arrived. Students filtered into the auditorium, nervous and dressed up. Parents, teachers, even local press had been invited. Carter presented third. His project on microfluidics sounded memorized, slick. He finished to polite applause and a nod from the panel. Then came Elijah. He stepped to the mic, looked out across the sea of polished faces and smiled. "My name is Elijah Grant. My project explores cellular regeneration through targeted bioelectric fields." He spoke clearly, passionately. His visuals were clean, data solid, but the real moment came at the end. "I want to close with something personal," Elijah said. "This school gave me an opportunity, but not everyone welcomed me. In fact, some tried to break me." A rustle swept the room. Carter's posture stiffened. But I didn't break. I observed, I learned, and I built something stronger than resentment. I built proof. Behind him, the projector changed slides. Not data charts, screenshots, emails, test files, text messages from Carter mocking teachers. A short clip, Carter and the coach exchanging files labeled Physics Final Draft. Gasps, then dead silence. Elijah looked up. This isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. Because when systems protect the powerful, it takes courage to challenge them, even if your shoes are second-hand. Principal Harding stood halfway up, red-faced. "Turn that off." Miss Klein, seated nearby, spoke into the mic. "It's evidence, sir, from multiple sources. The board has received copies." Carter stood now, trembling with rage. "You set me up." "No," Elijah said. "You set yourself up. I just stopped hiding it." Security entered the auditorium, murmurs swirling. One board member stood. "These are serious allegations. Mr. Langford, we'll need to speak with you privately." After the presentation, Amara caught up to Elijah backstage. "You just blew up the entire school." "I didn't want to," he said. "I had to." From the wings, Ethan watched, unsure whether to step forward. Elijah caught his eye and nodded. "Credit where it's due," Elijah said. "Couldn't have done this alone." The aftermath was chaos. By lunchtime, whispers had turned to roars. Students replayed the footage Elijah had revealed on their phones. Some were stunned. Others were vindicated. One girl in the cafeteria clapped Elijah on the shoulder and said, "You spoke for all of us." He wasn't used to that. Not the attention, not the support. In the main office, Carter sat beside his father, face pale and jaw clenched. Principal Harding tried to regain control of the situation, but the damage was done. The Board of Trustees had received the full report: academic dishonesty, bullying complaints, favoritism from faculty, a trail of mistreated students, and, for the first time, they couldn't ignore it. Why? Because people were watching. The press had picked up the story. Parents were demanding answers. Even Maya Rodriguez posted online, "Everything I said last year, Elijah proved it today, finally." Elijah sat with Miss Klein that afternoon. "You knew," he said, "didn't you?" "I had my suspicions," she replied. "But suspicion isn't proof. You gave them no place to hide." He looked down. "Do you think I went too far?" She studied him. Number U held a mirror up to this place. What they saw scared them. That's not your fault. She paused. But now you have to decide what you do with the power you've earned. That evening, Principal Harding called a closed-door meeting with Elijah, his mother, and the board. Dressed in her nurse scrubs, Miss Grant sat beside her son, unwavering. "Your son blindsided us," Harding said, unable to mask his frustration. "No," she replied. "He told the truth. You were just too comfortable to hear it." The board chair cleared her throat. "Elijah, your evidence was thorough. Painful, but necessary. The fellowship panel has requested a copy of your full presentation." His eyes widened. "So, I'm not disqualified." "On the contrary," she said, "you're now a frontrunner." Harding cut in. "But what about the disruption to the school's reputation?" Diane Grant leaned forward. "You're worried about reputation? What about the kids your system failed?" The room fell silent. 3 days later, an official email went out to the entire school. Effective immediately, Carter Langford has been suspended pending formal review. An investigation into previous harassment claims has been opened. Even more shocking, the assistant coach quietly resigned, and Principal Harding announced an indefinite leave of absence. Elijah stood at his locker when Amara appeared. You know he's leaving, right? Carter? She nodded. Rumor is his family's pulling him out. Said he doesn't feel safe here anymore. Elijah raised an eyebrow. Irony is underrated. They both laughed, not mean-spirited, just relieved. So, she asked, what now? He looked around. For once, no one was staring at him like he didn't belong. I've got a project to finish, he said. Spring arrived early that year. The once intimidating halls of Blackridge Academy had changed. Subtly, at first, teachers watching more closely, students whispering less and listening more. But the biggest shift wasn't institutional, it was personal. Elijah no longer walked with his head down. He didn't need to. A month after the scandal, the school hosted a student town hall, something it had never done before. Amara stood beside Elijah at the mic, both chosen by their peers to speak. We're not here to burn the school down, Elijah said. We're here to build something better from the inside. Applause. Not thunderous, but sincere. Miss Klein watched from the back of the room, a small smile tugging at her lips. A few days later, a letter arrived. Massachusetts Institute of Technology Summer Research Fellowship Full Ride. Accepted. Elijah stared at the words, barely breathing. His mother read over his shoulder. Her hand clutched her chest. You're going to MIT, she whispered. He turned, unsure if she was going to cry or scream. She did both. At the awards assembly, Elijah was announced as the recipient of a new honor, the Blackridge Integrity Scholarship, awarded to the student who best exemplifies courage, accountability, and academic excellence. As he walked up to receive the plaque, students rose to their feet. Even Ethan was there, sitting with Maya Rodriguez and 3 other students who, like Elijah, had once been voiceless. Elijah's speech was short. I didn't come here to be a symbol. I came here to learn. But when learning meant standing up, I didn't sit down. None of us should. That night, he and his mom sat on the roof of their apartment building, looking out over the city. You scared me, she said, half laughing. I scared myself, he admitted. But I'm proud, not just because you got into MIT, but because you never stopped being you. He looked down at the envelope in his lap, then at her. I didn't get here alone. No, she said, but you walked it. The next morning, as Elijah packed his bag for class, he paused at the mirror. Same face, same uniform, but a completely different person than the one who'd walked through Blackridge's gates months ago. He picked up his notebook, now covered in signatures, notes of thanks, doodles from friends. At the top, written in black marker, were 3 words Amara had scribbled after the assembly. You belong here. And this time, he believed it.